Hi, I'm John Cook, and I'm presenting on integrating JavaScript libraries with WordPress. I'm mentioning D3, but also talking about other ones as well. So just a brief overview of JavaScript. It's created by Brendan Each in May 1995. Dynamically typed, so instead of having variables that you assign a type to, like an integer or something like that, you assign it to the values. So like whatever variables you have, you can assign text to it, and then later on in the program you can assign like a number to that same variable, things of that sort. It's object-based, so you can reference those variables or those objects with dot notation. So let's say you have the document object, which is the main object for the page. It has several like prototypes that you can reference through dot notation. So, and then the same with bracket. So you might think of that similar to like an array. So object get the such and such element, and property and values can be added, changed, or deleted at runtime. And that's all a little bit more technical, but just some things to keep in mind about JavaScript. To add it into WordPress, you can add it in through plugins, through themes, and through content. So with plugins, I guess the benefit is that you can add it to both the site and to stuff within the WordPress admin. So if you're trying to modify stuff within the backend admin panel, maybe you do like an Ajax refresh after some post was made, or you changed some field. You could do that. It would work with most themes. Sometimes you might run into a theme conflict with some weird theme, but like 99% of the time it should be able to be integrated. And you can include it in content with shortcodes. The cons is require programming experience. So you'd have to like write your own plugins to go and to add in the JavaScript code wherever you want on the website. With themes, you have extreme control over where within the theme you want to incorporate the code. So if you want to show like a chart or something like that, or if you wanted to make your entire navigation of your website some sort of something interactive, you could go and add that in a specific like menu spot or a specific part of the theme outside of WordPress, well, in a sense, within a theme template, and integrate it that way. That also requires programming experience, and it makes it more difficult if you're just doing the pure theme integration option to kind of, let's say you have text within a page content, and then you want to put a chart in the middle and then some more text. It'd be more difficult to integrate something like JavaScript right in the middle there. What we're really going to talk a lot about is integrating it within the content. So if you go into your WordPress admin and you go to edit a WordPress post or a page, wherever you want to edit, like insert in JavaScript, there are ways to integrate it as either short codes, or there are ways to go under kind of the HTML view of it and integrate in the code, and then there's a plugin where you can add in the proper like JavaScript includes in the header and the footer of the site. I guess the downside with doing just purely adding it into the content of the site is JavaScript libraries might be included twice or not in the proper way. If you want to integrate it into WordPress plugins, you have to use WP enqueue script to add in the script tags, because you don't actually want to use the script tags within your plugin, because let's say WordPress itself is including in like a jQuery, and you want to use jQuery too. Well, you don't want to include that thing twice in your page, so you use that function, and if it's already been included, WordPress kind of skips over it.
You put that in your functions PHP file?
You can. I mentioned that's in the the next slide talking about WordPress themes, but in this, anywhere within the WordPress plugin, maybe like the main plugin file where you go and like add the actions and the filters and hooks that you want to write the function. Instead of, let's say, on a page, outputting out script type equals text JavaScript, and then like adding in the URL of the JavaScript, you should do something more like WP enqueue script. If it's a known one, there's a whole list. If you look up WP enqueue script on the WordPress repository, there's maybe like 200 of them, and like jQuery is one of them. So all you have to write is WP enqueue script jQuery, and it includes jQuery into that part of your plugin file. If it's some unique script like my script, what that code does is it gets the plugins directory and kind of like the current file directory, and it'll go into the JS directory and go to my script JS and include that file in and enqueue it. And so that way, it really is, the enqueue script function really just includes the script once within the page that's outputted at the end of all of the processing between plugins and themes and things of that sort. So like, let's say you have 5 plugins that all include the same jQuery JavaScript. All 5 of them don't need to put in the jQuery tag at the top of the page. By using the enqueue script jQuery, WordPress knows to only include that once. So that's really what that function does. And then you could use the shortcode API to add in shortcodes to your plugin, so that you can then kind of place, let's say, charts or things like that within your post content. I'm not going to discuss like how to do that, but if you look up the shortcode API, you can write functions to kind of work with that and have your own custom like blocks of code to insert in to the post content. I guess same thing with themes. You use enqueue script. You can create and add JavaScript code to a page template within the theme. So if you have like a gallery page, things of that sort, that works. Or you could add it to the header.php or footer.php of your theme file and use isPageTemplate. It's one way to be more specific. So if you want to include it into like a specific page template, like a gallery page template, you can use the function isPageTemplate to only add that JavaScript code to the header of that one page. Or same with isPage, and you can put in a page ID or post ID. And then JavaScript and post content. One way of doing it is you can install a plugin for showing JavaScript or charts, things of that sort, and use the built-in shortcodes for that plugin. So there's several plugins in the WordPress plugin directory that you can just take, install. They have built-in like D3 libraries. You can write your D3 code and kind of or specify it within a shortcode, and it shows up within that page or post. Then the other option is including the scripts in the header of the page. There are plugins that help to do that. And then you can go into text mode and add in the chart code as well. So I guess one neat resource is if you check out javascripting.com, there's a listing of a bunch of different JavaScript libraries. They list like D3.js, jQuery, 3, but there are like hundreds of them. So if you're ever having like a problem like what libraries exist or what's out there, things of that sort, you can visit javascripting.com, and it's just kind of like a tool you can filter through and see about libraries. Another tool that I wanted to mention is jsport.com. And whenever you work with JavaScript, and it was a recent project of mine that I was working on where a lot of things had to be modified on the page using JavaScript. So like there are thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of items all being modified based off of filtering drop-down boxes. It's all run all at once. And cases like that, it's really important to know the performance implications of the different libraries. And one thing that I've done before is I've just gone to Google and I've searched like jsperf.com, and then you search like maybe 2 libraries. So you'd say jsperf.com, jQuery versus D3.js. And you'll get search results, but they'll all be on this jsperf.com website. And the cool thing with this is you go to the page, you click run, and it'll run the tests right in your browser. And it'll tell you operations per second. It'll run these different selectors, and it'll show you which one is the fastest, slowest, and everything in between. As far as like operations per second, things like that. So you know like how does, let's say, D3 compare to plain JavaScript? Or how do the libraries compare to each other? So that's a really useful resource for that. But the plugin that I'm going to show is IPU chart, and it supports D3.js and SVG charting. So you can install the plugin and use a shortcode to add charts to post and page content. And let's pull up here. So I just have a blank WordPress install on a dev site. So it's like wp.js.dev. I'm using varying vagrants locally for development. But I would just go into the plugins directory, add new, and type in the IPU chart, install it, and then I went under pages and created a page. And here's really where like some short codes come into play. Whenever you by default go to pages within the WordPress admin and you're editing any page, you can go and by default it shows the visual tab. But you can also click on the text tab and you can see kind of like the HTML version of the page. So if you put in any paragraph tags, anything like that, that shows up here as well. And with this, because like with this library, we need to give it a div class to put it in. And the ID has to match up with the parent element. And then you can style it. You can put like, oh, the width is 90%, font size, things of that sort. But the shortcodes within this IPU chart plugin let you kind of start the shortcode with this, which is just kind of IP4 in brackets, end it with this, and put the data in the middle. And so you can run like IP4.varchar, and this is rendering it with D3. And the data is being included in right now just through X and Y axes. So the X, like, for example, if you're charting, let's say, sales per month for the first 6 months, this is like number of sales, 75, and the month is January on a chart. You could edit this data directly, but this also supports pulling in the data through JSON, through other forms like that. And then whenever you add all of this in, you can go to the front page and it actually integrates it directly into the page, right along with that data. And like, let's say if you change that from 145 down to 45 and press update, then it updates to 45 because it's based off of that data. Now, for a plugin like that, here's their page within the plugin directory, IPU chart. It's a free WordPress plugin, and then they have a user guide. Which provides some examples and some ways of integrating, if you do like, click on, say, pie chart, line chart, group bar chart, things of that sort. You can input it directly, or somewhere within that same page, it shows how to, like an example of integrating it in through, let's say maybe data reader and adapters, through like JSON. You can go in and you can pass in these different functions, different data, things of that sort.
So you can have a chart show up on a regular page in a small compartment.
Right, and within the page content. So like, you can see I'm under edit page, and with a plugin like this, you add the plugin to the site, and then you would, because it needs somewhere to put this chart, you'd specify this div tag somewhere within the page content. And then this short code could be placed wherever, at the top, bottom, but it still have to be within text. And you can add in charts that way. You can add multiple ones. So like, if you put in a different parent element here and a different ID on this div tag, then you could add in a second one and a third. And that way you can have, like, you're in the middle of an article, and then right in the middle of the article, you throw in a chart. And you throw in like other things like that. So I thought that was a really neat plugin for allowing you to kind of add it, throw it in, render it. Some of the more advanced ways of integrating D3, and you might look at doing it, like I said before, within a theme or a plugin. And I don't know how technical everyone is here, but I've looked at doing it before, like within a theme. And the neat thing with D3 itself is that it allows you to kind of, it really works with the document object model. So anything on that page, anything rendered, these div tags, links, images, things of that sort, anywhere on that page, you can go and you can reference them. You can select them. You can do that with D3, or you can do that with jQuery, or many different libraries, even plain JavaScript. But the really neat thing with D3 is that it allows you to modify the data based off of the selectors. Like, it works directly with the HTML page, and so you can do things like charts with it, but you can also kind of modify it and adapt it, and you can use it to modify. Let's say you have a WordPress loop running and it displays 100 posts, and you're setting the IDs of each post to the post IDs, like ID equals the post ID number. You could use D3, you can pass in the data, and you can say, I only want every 5th post to show when somebody presses a button. So they press that button, it'll be D3, and then run the function, or you could do D3, select all, and then div, and it would select all the div, and then you can run additional things against it. But it's another way of modifying the elements on the page based either off of functions or off of the different selectors, things of that sort. It's a way of working with page data as well. And I know I went through a lot, but anybody have any questions or? Okay.
On that plugin that you're talking about, can you reference an external CSS page?
What as far as like changing the design of it?
Yeah, what I was thinking was, I saw you had styles up in the div tag, and I was wondering if you can on-queue a CSS page file and then reference it from the individual posts.
Okay. So yeah, you wanted me to repeat the question, but that was that within the div tag on the post or the page that I was on, it had styles within it. So right here it said style. And yes, you can go and separate that out. So, if you had a separate, like within your theme, separate CSS file, or sometimes they even have separate plugins for allowing you to write your own custom CSS rules. Use the styling right against that ID of the div tag. So you can say, what is it, pound, kcal, and you can style it that way. Sometimes, this isn't the most ideal way of doing it. That's actually like better practice. Rather than handwriting it within the style tags. But depending on your experience with WordPress and programming and things of that sort, sometimes like this is better than nothing. If you don't.
You just showed me. You're a good teacher.
The what?
I installed it. It's on your tutorial. I downloaded the plugin. I got it loaded.
Oh, okay. Oh, so you got it loaded that fast?
Yeah.
Okay.
I saw that other page, the ID selector, D3 was the fastest of the lot.
Yeah. In some cases, like it depends on how you're writing your code. But a lot of times, if you're focused on performance, pure JavaScript is going to be the most performant. And then you might get into things like D3 and then jQuery. Kind of a lot of times because these libraries have extra functions, extra things to run behind the scenes. It might not be the absolute most performant, but for showing charts for like 99% of the time, it works. The reason why I brought that up is I really had to look into performance on a project because there was just a tremendous amount of data that was being modified. And so I had to essentially use single dimensional arrays and pure JavaScript to modify it. Like I had to really simplify it down just for performance reasons.
So you could have an animation in text on that home page in your WordPress site.
Yes, so like this is a regular WordPress page. You can go and you could write regular text. So if I say page text here and press update, then I can go here and reload this. It'll say page text here. So I add in images, I could add in media, videos, things of that sort, and I can put a chart right in the middle of it, or a chart over to the side. It's as good as the regular page editor.
Can you put any D3 in the IP4 or just certain charty stuff with X and a Y?
Right now, if I guess reference their reference website.
IP4 is the shortcode, isn't it?
IP4 is the shortcode, and this is IP4.draw. So I know that they're doing a lot of chart things with it.
So you go to the plugin page?
The plugin page. Yeah, I have that pulled up. So, well, did I X out of it? Or no, maybe I clicked through. Or another quick way to get there is going under View Details. And then
Scroll down.
yeah.
Usage, there it goes.
Usage.
IP4 is the shortcode name,
Yeah.
so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You want to use IP4, it's the shortcode. It's named a shortcode, it has nothing to do with
With the actual like data.
Have you changed the colors?
I mean, I know that you could at the very least do that through CSS. I think that there's a way to do that within there should be a way to do that within the shortcode. But I haven't changed the colors myself. Well, yeah, it says it has many options to style chart with CSS or built-in color functions. You can load the data from a remote service. Use JSON, CSV, tags, all sorts of things like that. And even do data refreshes. So this does it every 20 seconds. It'll go and pull in the data from this URL. And the interval, I mean, this is in milliseconds, so it's 20,000 milliseconds or 20 seconds. But if I change that to 10,000, it'd be 10 seconds. And so yeah, I mean, to play around with this, I mean, maybe set up just a separate like WordPress install somewhere on some website hosting or local install of it, something like that. Download the plugin, playing around with it on just some like blank website. See, reading in data from other places, the charts, CSS styling, things of that sort. But, were there any other questions?